From the gridiron to the diamond, this is more than X's and O's. This is your best Florida sports podcast with CBS 12 News sports director John Evenson and producer extraordinaire Sam Sullivan.
Welcome to episode
Whoa,
7.
I'm always dodging that fire. That legit scares me every time. The fire after that
It's pumped up music. It's amped up music.
That music is an earworm? Is that what it's called? An earworm? It's in my head always. It will not leave my head.
Oh, you have ringworm.
I don't have ringworm. My two cats are perfectly healthy. But I can't get that song out of my head. It's catchy. Just listen to it over and over again and you'll see. Like 10 times and it'll never escape your head.
That music directly correlates the energy the Dolphins should have right now with Tua back.
And I can confirm that energy exists. Wednesday in Miami Gardens at the Dolphins training facility. I have never seen a more depressing 6 games with the page turned almost immediately. Crumple up one of those pages. Let's crumple up visually on YouTube.
This is the 6 weeks.
Here he goes. Crumpled up the first 6 games right there. That's what the Dolphins are doing at practice. Tua Tagovailoa was back on Wednesday. You could feel the energy. Definitely. He spoke on Monday. They got it over with. They got that kind of salty Tua press conference over with. Just so annoyed that he has to deal with all of these concussion questions, but of course you have to ask the questions. We haven't heard from him since the Buffalo game and that horrible image again of him being in the fencing position, sustaining his 3rd diagnosed NFL concussion. But my gosh, you can just say he does not enjoy being the face of concussions in the NFL, which he inevitably will be until something really great happens where we can sort of ignore all that and we see some healthy Tua play for the next little while, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot to answer considering his career was on the line. A lot of people calling for his retirement to step away from the game, and I think that should be a motivating factor for him to want to come into this week and moving forward for the rest of the season, like you said, and do something so great that people will forget that he's the, poster boy, if you will, of concussions.
Yeah, and he on Monday, I guess we could start there. I mean, he definitely acknowledges and admits that there certainly is a risk with him coming back, although he says he's going to play safer. He played safe last year. It's something, there was some desperation there that led to this injury. Someone asked him, I think it was Adam Beasley asked him, whether, what he says to people who are worried for him and think that he should maybe consider retiring. He said, thank you for your concern, but I'm going to do this. And I think we have some sound of him talking about just his acknowledgement of the risk and why he's decided to come back and play anyway.
Well, how much risk do we take when we get up in the morning to go drive to work? Get into a car crash, maybe. I don't know. Everything, I think, takes risk. So to answer that question, every time we all suit up, we're all taking a risk that we could potentially get hurt, whether it's a concussion, a broken bone, anything. I think the brain it's just there's just a gray area when it comes to that. If you do know that you're going to get long-term, disease from it, or if you're not, I just think there's a lot of gray with it. For me, this is what I love to do. This is what makes me happy, and I'm going to do it.
And despite that risk, like you talked about of him coming back after all the concussions that he suffered, he's deciding not to take a safer route and using a guardian cap to be able to protect himself and move forward with that.
Well, it's a theory that it's a safer route.
Right.
Devon A. Chan, his mom told him, he kept that. I love that about Devon A. Chan said, my mom told me to wear the guardian cap. I'm not going to go back and forth with her. So he sustained a concussion a couple weeks ago. He came back, played with the guardian cap. We saw him in that Colts loss. But there's a few things here. As far as the experts telling him it is safe to play, he made very clear, again, we've heard this from other experts who, how many experts have we heard from all over the media, that there just is no concrete proof that there's any bigger risk moving forward, even with Tua, after everything we've seen from him, it's just been such a visually horrible thing to see him sustaining these concussions, but there is no proof that there is a greater future risk to him getting out there and playing again. And on the same note, there has not been any solid proof yet that the Guardian cap would necessarily, it's supposedly, the theory is that it takes away 10% of the blow. But Tua gets more of these knockout blows. You know what I mean? If you're going head first, and like what we saw in the last one, there's nothing that's going to help you there. A Guardian cap, the same thing would have happened probably with the Guardian cap. And the NFL hasn't mandated these yet for a reason.
Right.
They're still figuring it out, doing the testing. But if you wanted to be thorough, sure, you would wear one. But Tua, it's his choice.
It is.
It's his choice.
And the best way he could stay safe is to not run head first, to just kind of, keep himself in the pocket where he's got to roll out, use the sideline to his advantage. I hope he watched some of this baseball as of late, learn how to slide.
Well, he already had learned. I mean, last year, that's part of the problem, ironically, that we're in right now as Dolphins fans. It's like he was healthy all last year. Broke a bunch of records and stuff, and then they just forgot that they needed a backup or something. The manager, Chris Greer, did, because they didn't bother to even work on the backup quarterback situation. And there was some desperation in that Buffalo game, momentary lapse. Even he'll admit it. Let's hear what Tua had to say when asked about playing safer, which I'm convinced he already was well aware of, and he just. He was trying to get that extra yard for his team.
It's got to be smart. That's it. It's got to be smart. My entire time playing football, I've been a competitor, and that, is or was sort of my edge when I would run from high school. Even in college, I would do the same thing. But it's a professional, setting. This is the professional level, the best of the best. You just can't be doing that. So definitely got to stay more available for the team, for the organization, for our guys.
And head coach Mike McDaniel, Sam, he's always a positive dude, right? But even he said, Tua's not our savior here. He's not going to come back and wave a magic wand and everything. I want you to put this into perspective, okay? Think about that first game and those first two quarters. Were you excited about the brand of football the Miami Dolphins were providing?
No.
No. Tua Tagovailoa is 3-5 in his last 8 games. So it's not like he's been setting the world on fire with this offense as of late. You know the potential he has, and my gosh, we have lived through some terrible looking offensive football since he's gone down. We could only beg for the type of offense that he could provide with this offense that is fully built for him. Can we get a pass to Tyreek? Can we get a pass to Jaylen Waddle? He's not the savior, but my goodness, hopefully we could see something exciting on offense, and you got to beat the Cardinals. You have to. You got Buffalo next.
Yeah, if you're paying a guy that much money, I'd hope he's the savior for this team, because this team cannot function without him, it seems like.
So you disagree. You say he is the savior, or he better be.
He better be the savior.
He better be the savior. So if savior is involved, we've used the word savior so many times, it's sounding, when you say a word.
I can savor it.
When you say a word so many times, it doesn't make sense
It doesn't sound
anymore?
right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's what's happening
So he better be the savior for this team.
Like earworm.
Because like you said, got Arizona coming up, and you got to be able to take advantage of that team that's been, they've been on a seesaw. They've been all over the place. So
Tua said, Tyreek said today, or Wednesday, we taped this on Wednesday, he said, ask my teammate, we don't get to see the whole practice. He was like, ask my teammates the reaction I had when I got a pass up the middle from Tua Tagovailoa today. I can only imagine Snoop Huntley and Skylar Thompson just must have hung their heads in shame because Tyreek can rub things in a little bit. But, there's no one happier to have Tua back than Tyreek.
I mean, he almost broke the single-season receiving record with Tua. So, Of course he's excited, and he knows that when the ball is in his hands, he could do great things, and he can help lead this team to wins. So it's a big deal.
But there is, all these mistakes and penalties aren't just going to go away either.
Right.
You know, with like, so again, on the note that McDaniel said he's not the savior, he sees a lot wrong with this team, obviously. Maybe it'll be a blessing. Like maybe all of the ugly warts on this team were exposed without Tua Tagovailoa being there. I mean, what did we see? We saw the last game alone, this Colts loss. It was so, you had the Alec Ingold fumble. A guy who is known for his ball protection and being able to hang on to footballs. Raheem Mostert, you love him, top running back there. Sanders clanked one. I'm convinced. I talked to Dave Hyde about this. We'll get to Dave Hyde, but I am convinced. Like I thought of this when Tim Boyle, that last play when he just kind of threw it to the fifth row. What were you thinking at that point in time? What were you thinking? Like I automatically said to myself, he thought it was third down. He thought it was third down. He forgot about the spike.
Yeah.
That did not look like that. That looked like, okay, give us one more play. He didn't have another play.
No.
And that just shows the communication is off on this team. If that's right, no one's talked about it, but man, that did not look right.
It looked like a team that's starting to crumble. And so Tua cannot be coming at a better time to help save this team.
Well, I don't know if he could save the communication and the legal shifts and all that stuff, but I know who could save our sanity. Dave Hyde. Was that good? Was that a good intro?
That was good.
Okay, let's go to Dave. We are joined now by Dave Hyde, Sun-Sentinel columnist, who's, of course, covered the Dolphins for decades and decades, right? Like at least
I'm an old man. I'm a very old man. Yes.
No, I mean, you have the best perspective. You've seen it all. What did you think of Tua Tagovailoa's press conference to start the week? I guess maybe a little bit of a saltier Tua Tagovailoa than we were expecting, but he's been through a lot.
Yeah, he's angry, a defiant Tua. From his perspective, not understanding or liking that he's in the middle of this concussion story. Not just in the middle, he's the poster child in the NFL's concussions in this moment. And but my thoughts are somewhat of the things he said. It's his decision to make. He's got all the information. He's got neurologists lined up, doctor's reports, talk to his family. He's a big boy, so there's guys in the NFL playing with more concussions than him. I mean, Mitch Morse of a center for Jacksonville has 6. One of the Cleveland cornerbacks has 5. So I mean, but none as dramatic as Tua. So, but it was a defiant Tua yesterday.
Yeah, speaking of how dramatic they always seem to look, like the fencing position, the last one, it was surprising to hear him confirm that he hasn't had any symptoms since starting the day after. He didn't have any symptoms there. I'm sure that has a lot to do with his decision to even go as far as to say he's not going to wear a Guardian cap.
Yeah, you know what? I was looking at a report. Those Guardian caps, I'm not sure. They're collecting evidence, but nothing is certain that it helps. Surprisingly to me, but on the college level, they're starting to collect evidence that. But the point was, no. He said it's a personal decision, which it is again, and so I'm sure. Beyond the Guardian caps, what will help is to play smarter. Do not go running headfirst into defensive backs, even guys his size, because that's what this last season he played very smart. If he's going to get hit, he went down. If he's avoid contact at all costs, and you felt it is a little more aggressive this season. So I think a smarter Tua would be a better Tua.
Yeah, I was going to say we got through an entire season last year with him being completely healthy, which I'm sure plays in to the frustrating circumstance of them just really not having a backup plan. We've seen he is still I can't believe when you look through 6 games, he is still the leading passer by a mile when you between three other quarterbacks who stumbled like the Three Stooges to try to do something with his offense. Will he be the savior coming back right away?
Well, I mean, he'll be better than what they had, but that's not just a measure of him as a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's also a measure how this franchise bungled, the front office bungled the backup quarterback position and weren't ready. I mean, everybody knew Tua potentially is a fragile quarterback, and the fact they weren't ready with a better backup quarterback put the season in real jeopardy. And can he save the season? I mean, they're 2-4. To get to last year's record, they got to go 9-2 to get to 11-6. To get to double-digit wins, they have to go 8-3. So it's a tall order. Certainly, he'll get the offense back on track compared to what it was, where Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle really aren't even getting the ball.
I mean, it's been talked about ad nauseum, just how this offense was specifically designed almost for Tua Tagovailoa and his abilities. That said, are you just as dumbfounded as the rest of us that they have not been able to work Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle? I mean, we've seen two deep schemes a lot. For them to be able to shut down two top wide receivers like that, and I mean, thank goodness they got the running game going, but it just has not been working whatsoever under Mike McDaniel's playbook.
Yeah, I was surprised they couldn't get the ball to them pretty much at all. One catch each on the last Sunday. But again, it's a measure of, Skylar Thompson. He just didn't look ready. They invested 3 years in him, and that was a complete misread on the franchise, on Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel's part. And then they have to go and get Tyler Huntley and force feed him the offense. And he's probably as much as the bye week helped and all that. Certainly the first two starts and into this one. Look where he's throwing the tight end. That's a comfort level over the middle. That's comfort level for a quarterback, right? And trying to find speedy, smaller receivers as they're running, that's a harder thing to do. So again, I just think the thinking in the quarterback room behind Tua is going to be the real problem to this season as we look back.
No one is happier to see Tua back than Tyreek and Waddle. But now it's going to take some time for Tagovailoa to amp up a little bit. I mean, he's only starting to practice again this week, so that's a concern too, right? To kind of, it's almost his week one.
I don't think it'll take time. I think he'll come out and he's been throwing, as he said, for weeks. Yeah. So it's not sure the practices will help, but give him a little bit of time. But certainly by the second quarter, I don't know. There'll be a time where everything will click in, and the other added problem is that everybody expects him. Oh, this offense is going to be clicking great. Well, it didn't click and wasn't great when Tua was here at the start of the year. It wasn't great at the end of last year. You go back to the last 5 games he played, they didn't score over 20 points. And so, can that be solved too? That's an add-on question to, how's Tua going to look when he comes back?
Dare I say, I'm almost afraid to throw this out to you, but the O-line has not looked as bad as we thought it might. So that there is a good positive thing to put into consideration here, right?
Yeah, look, they matched up against, let's face it, Indianapolis on Sunday, 31st ranked rush defense, and the offensive line was good enough to take advantage of that, which is what you want. They had a very healthy running game, and that's what you needed with Tyler Huntley at quarterback, and the offense not clicking in parts. But again, you saw a lot of the problems. The pre-snap penalties, holdings, just penalties galore still that are they're not good enough to offset those type of mistakes. And so can they get those cleaned up?
I almost feel like it was I had this feeling when I saw it, and I've heard other people sort of mention it over the past couple of days. I almost feel like Boyle thought it was third down when he threw that ball away on that last play. Did you ever get that? I mean, that was a strange way to end the game.
Yeah, as there are a lot of other plays that are mystifying, but the last play of the game, to see it go about in the fifth row or 10 yards out of bounds rather than into the end zone as a Hail Mary. I never, I wasn't in the Boyle press conference. I was at the game. I was in the locker room, and he was in a different room. So I didn't hear or ask that question, but I'm sure either he thought there was time on the clock or he lost track of where they were.
But it's things like that and the other mistakes we've seen and all the penalties that kind of make you wonder, like, does this run deeper? What's all this disarray about here?
Yeah, well, they've had the penalties. They lead the league in penalties per game. They're second in pre-snap penalties, which are lining up wrong, false starts, mental penalties. And so can they clean this type of stuff up? It's like we're going back to the Adam Gase era where they were right down there in penalties too, and they never did clean it up.
I haven't seen one more for you. I haven't seen Mike McDaniel get criticized as much as he has over the past few weeks. People, the whole nice guy, funny guy thing works when there's fun stuff going on and success. But all the penalties and the play calling while Tua's been out has left a lot of. Can he redeem himself? What will it take for Mike McDaniel to redeem himself when Tua comes back here?
We all know what it takes. It takes winning, right? When you're winning, he's funny and loose, and he's the unfootball coach in the NFL that everybody loves. And when they're losing, he's goofy and not tough enough and not disciplined enough to hold the team together. So, it's wins and losses are everything at this level, as they should be. This is the big leagues.
I want the funny Mike McDaniel back. Hopefully, hopefully we get him.
Yeah, me too. That guy's fun to cover, and he's fun when they're winning. Everybody's happy, right? And when they're losing, well, we're looking around and seeing what happens.
Hear, hear. Let's hope for some wins moving forward. Thank you so much, Dave Hyde.
All right, John.
So two people that are probably very excited about Tua's return, Jaylen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. I mean,
and all of their fantasy football managers who exist.
Especially those people.
Drafted Tyreek in the first round.
Up to this point, I've got the stats here. Of course, against the Colts, Waddle, 1 reception for 11 yards. In a PPR, that's 2 points.
Nice.
Tyreek Hill, 1 reception for 8 yards. That's not even 2 points.
I can't even believe, he fell to me, I had the 5th pick or something, and I took Tyreek, and he's been I just hate to say it, but the past couple of weeks he's been on my bench because I just have an awesome wide receiver core. So don't take offense, Cheetah. But I saw what was going on here with the quarterback. But how do you not 4 targets for those 2 guys? The highest paid decoys in football, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How on earth does that? I can't. How does it? I can't fathom. I still can't fathom how that is even possible, especially when you have the running game going the way it has been over the past 2 weeks. You'd think that that would open things up, and it's just a matter of. I've never seen an offense just designed so specifically for a quarterback, and then have such a massive drop off underneath that quarterback as far as, I don't want to say skill set. All due respect to Snoopy, came in with 2-3 weeks, whatever. But it's so complex. Mike McDaniel is a super smart offensive guru, and it was just too complex for these other quarterbacks to figure out in time.
And it might be something he has to think about moving forward. It's going to be tough to do this season, but in future seasons he might have to kind of alter this offense to make it more fluid for other quarterbacks to come in.
It kind of reminds me of, do you remember that SNL skit with the IT guys and they come in and they act all snobby, how do you not know, this computer stuff, it's almost like that. He's so smart.
Right.
He just wants everyone to be at his level of brainiac almost. And that's all due respect to McDaniel, because I think the guy's great. But I think it's more the design of the team, short-sighted. Again, Tua being healthy all last year. It's very short-sighted. And we saw it firsthand, not having a backup plan.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It kind of exposed a big part of their team, how important he is. And that might play into how, teams play against Tua, which is, they might try and attack him more and kind of limit that part of the offense. Despite the run game being as good as it's been for the Dolphins, it might be very easy for defenses moving forward to kind of shut down this team.
And funny enough, I think in week 1 and 2, we were in the preseason for sure, we were worried about the O-line. They haven't been so bad. The O-line, so give Tua a little bit of a better O-line situation, and he could take a mile from that, man. So that's a good omen too. And the running game, maybe, again, all of this that we've seen might allow the offense to know themselves more. Some good might come out of this, like the running game over the past few weeks. Jaylen Wright, the rookie, has been one of everyone's favorite running backs. I mean, feed the kid. That's a thing that's a saying that's come out of this season. Feed the kid, because he's so impressive.
Right. Yeah, it has been very special to, kind of see him play. And it's surprising that he's been doing as great as he has with Achane and Mozart still a part of this run game, still a big part of this run game. But it just shows that, that's a big part of this team moving forward, is that run game, despite having Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Do you know, feed the kid is also a saying that we have in the newsroom with Sam Sullivan, because he's a growing boy, and whenever there's donuts or
no donuts.
Feed the kid.
It's strictly protein.
Yeah, see, but feed the kid means something totally different with you. It's just like filling your pie hole, right?
Nah, with protein.
He's lying. Don't listen to this guy. Protein.
It's got to be.
Are barbecue chips protein?
I've never had a barbecue chip in my life.
Such a liar. Forget about it. Let's go to Jaylen Wright. Feed the kid, Jaylen. I am here with Dolphins rookie running back Jaylen Wright, and things have been going great for the running game the past couple of weeks. What have you noticed in this sort of evolution of getting ready or getting used to the NFL?
Just, start with preparation throughout the week, knowing what defenses like to do, knowing how they like to fit up runs, and knowing, what techniques the D-line and, linebackers, how they fit runs and everything happens. So, I just translate that to the game and stay patient, wait for my opportunities, and try to maximize them all. So,
you hear a lot of fans out there saying, give the ball to Jaylen more. How does that make you feel? I don't know if you see that type of stuff, but people are really liking what they're seeing from you. They're excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool and all, but, they got to understand, it's, I can control only what I can control. I just try to do my best make the most of my opportunities that I get. Just try to stay poised and stay down, and just stay ready. So that's my main thing.
You've mostly known a team without Tua Tagovailoa since you've been here than one with one. But that said, what was it like having him back on the field today? What was the energy like out there?
I mean, true leader. I mean, somebody, just really real general. I feel like Tua being back out there, it's going to make everybody, I'm not saying that everybody wasn't locked in, but, just that feel to have your guy out there means a lot. Tua, I mean, we want to do this for him after all he been through. We want to make it work. We got a long season ahead of us, and we got a lot of success ahead of us as well. So, yeah.
In Tua, we trust. I love talking to Jaylen Wright. He's just taking it all in. He doesn't know this team as well without Tua. With Tua, he's still getting used to the NFL. But I can tell you one thing: they better beat the Cardinals this week, and I'm thinking Jaylen Wright might be a big part of that.
Yeah, they're hoping that him and the entire run game can really ramp up against this team that's been like I mentioned, a little bit all over the place. They were able to hold the Chargers to 5 field goals. That's it.
Yeah.
They let up. Herbert had 349 passing yards, no touchdowns.
Yikes.
So that it's a lot of that bend don't break for this defense.
But they're on 5 days? 5 days rest? 6?
Yeah, they played Monday night,
short
so
week,
it'll be a short week for them.
So that's one thing, one advantage. Dolphins. I feel like I'm petting a cat when I say that.
But then the Cardinals' run game is one to be reckoned with as well. James Conner, a huge part of this team. He had 19 carries, 101 yards rushing on top of 51 yards receiving. So
scary stat, because the Dolphins' run defense has given up 100-plus yards in every game this season. So it's almost like a scary...
So if you were a betting man, are you saying to take the over on James Conner to go?
I am going to put $559,000 on that and go hang out with Post Malone and watch our apps together and then make funny faces.
Hard Rock app, yeah. If you guys want to get in touch with us, just let us know.
The Hard Rock app or Post Malone, because that'd be a cool conversation too.
Yeah.
Talking to him, you know? But what would you ask Post Malone if you had a chance to talk to him?
What would I ask
Why are we talking about Post Malone every week on this show?
I don't know. What would I ask him?
Yeah, what'd you ask him?
I would ask, can I be on your next song?
All right. I would ask him, I think he grew up in Syracuse. So I would ask him like, if he had ever, been to Hyde's. It's like this hot dog place up there.
Okay.
You know? And then he'd be like, yeah. And then our conversation would be over and I'd be like, why did I ask something? That was the worst question. But anyway, we'll rethink Post Malone
for questions. Now, we're going to focus on the Cardinals.
And the questions that you asked the Cardinals analyst.
That's right. I asked Nick King, who works for CBS 5 in Glendale, Arizona, covers the Cardinals very deeply. You know, we discussed this game, what can we expect, and why don't you take a listen?
He covers them deeply?
Deeply.
He's deeply emotionally.
Kind of like how you're deeply involved with the Dolphins.
I'm just thinking of hot dogs right now, but yeah, go ahead.
Take a listen. I guess that's our perfect way to jump into it. You know, they're kind of right back to work after a, close win last night. Not really the strongest offensive performance, but, looking back at that game, what did you like from their performance?
James Conner's awesome. I'm not sure how much he's appreciated or as much as he should be around the NFL, but the guy's an absolute monster who just seems to get stronger as games go on. I think he just wears defenses down. Over 100 yards rushing for the fifth time in the last 9 games for him. Also led the Cardinals in receiving. He is probably the biggest reason they won the game. And then, it wasn't beautiful all the time, but there were 3 plays in the first half that kind of typify what this team is under Jonathan Gannon, under what he's wanted them to be for the last year and change, which is just kind of motor and fight and hustle. And so there were 3 fumble recoveries in the first half. 2 of them the Cardinals forced. One on the opening Cardinals drive. Kyler Murray's picked off. James Conner hustles down, strips the offensive lineman, and wide receiver Michael Wilson recovers the fumble. Ensuing Chargers drive, they're about to walk in for a touchdown. Starling Thomas, defensive back, strips the wide receiver at about the 2, and it bounces right into the hands of safety Jaylen Thompson. And then later in the first half, on the Cardinals' ultimately what was their first touchdown drive, Conner is stripped, and tight end Trey McBride was Johnny on the spot. It's just, all 3 of those plays changed the score of the game because the first 2 basically took points off the board for the Chargers, and the last one kept the Cardinals on the field for them to get points. And that's kind of what they need to be, is like gritty and tough and hustle and outwork you. And to me, those 3 plays really stood out.
And looking at this, it being a low scoring game, which side of the ball do you think plays a bigger impact into you guys winning games? Is it the defense having a performance like this, or does it take at least one playmaker on offense to have a big game for you guys to win, as you mentioned, like James Conner?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think going into the season, the offense was considered the strong suit, and I think it still is / should be. But the games they've won, it's largely been the defense. So they've been blown out twice by the Commanders and Packers. And then in week 1 against the Bills, they gave up a ton of points too. But otherwise, the defense that doesn't really have many name players on it and has been beat up like most teams around the NFL, they're hanging in there. They gave up 349 pass yards to Justin Herbert, but they shut down the run, which is what the Chargers want to do, and held them to only field goals. And a couple weeks ago against the 49ers, comeback win, they gave up a ton of yards. It's very bend but don't break. But they just forced turnovers when they were in Santa Clara. Second half against the Lions, they didn't give up a single point. So the games and the Rams game, the offense was awesome, but the defense held LA to 10 points, was all over Matthew Stafford. So the offense should be the strength, but it hasn't been that impressive. And to me, the games that they've won and the games that they've been in, it's because the defense has kept them in it.
And going back to the defense, you mentioned, giving up a lot of yards, but not touchdowns, that bend, don't break style, if you will. How long do you think that can last for this team while also, gathering wins along the way? Is that
Yeah,
sustainable?
it's so week to week. Um, I mean, that's kind of what it's been. Uh, Talking about going back to the last 4 weeks, they give up 42 points to the Commanders. Then they come back against the Niners, don't give up a point in the second half, hold them to 20. Then they give up what the Packers end up with, a lot of points, 30 or 40. And then they come back last night and hold the Chargers to 15. So this team, the NFL is obviously a very week to week league, and there are a lot of teams you don't quite know what you're getting. The Cardinals are like the model child for that. It's just, you don't know. They feel very hard to predict, and a lot of that is because of the defense. I would lean toward it not being sustainable, but to be honest, I've been surprised at the way they've been able to hold up to this point and keep teams, again, in some games, keep them off the board, hold them to field goals.
And moving forward to this upcoming game, of course, against the Dolphins, with Tua coming back, yeah, that adds a huge part of their offense to, what they can expand to be. But up to this point, their playmakers have not been that great. I mean, Jaylen Waddle only had 11 receiving yards. Tyreek Hill only had 8. Is that
That's
something
hard to
that
believe.
it is, right? And is that something you think that the Cardinals can take advantage of regardless of Tua coming back?
Well, I'd be surprised. I would expect. To be honest, I haven't watched a ton of the Dolphins, but I've been very surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe the absence of Tua is that big of a difference, but very surprised to see the numbers and see how few points they're scoring and what that is. I think if Tua's back and he is anything like his normal self, I would expect the Dolphins to put up the yards. I think everything will go way up. So the Cardinals, they're playing probably a rookie corner in Max Melton out of Rutgers, early round pick who had to fill in for veteran Sean Murphy Bunting, who left last night's game with a neck injury. Not sure what his status will be. Cardinals just lost another one of their edge rushers, linebacker Dennis Gardeck. They've been just brutalized at that position. They might get their second pick of the first round, Darius Robinson, back this week. He hasn't played yet this season, but it's a team that you can move the ball against. Everyone's done that. So I think the Dolphins, I would be stunned if those guys have less than 20 yards receiving on Sunday.
And then moving over to the Cardinals offense, the Dolphins have, they kept the Colts to only 16 points, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries as well. What matchups do you like on the offensive side for the Cardinals?
Pretty much James Conner and Trey McBride, and Kyler's ability to run the ball. Those are like the three things that have carried this offense to this point. Because as I mentioned, the wide receivers, they just haven't been able to get them involved in a way that they'd like to. But McBride, a little bit of a slow start to the season, but he's been very consistent the last couple of weeks. Was expected to kind of become a premier tight end this league and this year, I should say. And I think we're seeing it. Connor, again, he's fantastic. And then when Kyler gets out and runs, that's a huge difference maker for the Cardinals. When he's rushed for 50 yards this year, they're 3-1. And when he hasn't, they're 0-3. It's not that simple, but historically, when he runs the ball a lot, and he doesn't love to, he'd rather buy time and make a throw. There aren't a ton of designed runs for him. It's almost when he absolutely needs to. But from the time he's been in the NFL, the Cardinals win at a way higher percentage when he runs the ball more. So those are basically, to me, those are the three keys for the Cardinals. The three things that you are prepared for: McBride, Connor, Kyler running the ball.
Going back to the now and, just this upcoming week, what is your score prediction of this game against the Dolphins?
Okay. And again, I find the Cardinals nearly impossible to predict. And they haven't won 2 games in a row in almost 3 calendar years. It was like early December of 2021 is the last time they won 2 in a row. So this would have to break a pretty strong trend at this point for it to happen. But I'll bank on Tua being a little rusty and not looking quite right, and the Cardinals winning 24-17.
Okay, 24-17. And I'd have to assume you think that James Conner's going to have another one of those big games, at least 100 yards.
Yeah, that's kind of the guy that it's almost like he has to. That's one of those things that you look at his numbers and it pretty well falls in line. If he has a good day, they're probably winning. And if he doesn't have a good game, they're probably losing. So yes, I will expect more of the same from Connor.
So as we talked about, this is going to be a great game regardless of how it plays out. But for the Dolphins, I mean, they have an opportunity to really flip and turn their season around with these next 5 games.
Yeah, and I wouldn't worry about, some have said, Tua has to get back into, he has been preparing for all of these games that he has not played as if he was playing them. He's been passing. I think Dave Hyde even said earlier, he's not concerned about that at all. But you can't lose any more games. You have Buffalo right after. The Bills just absolutely own the Dolphins, of course, and maybe there's going to have to be a couple upsets here, and if the Dolphins want to win the playoff, want to reach the playoffs. So maybe win over Buffalo. I mean, it sounds silly saying it. And then you got the Rams after that.
Yep.
The Raiders are 2-5. Their quarterback is injured, so there's an opportunity right there. And then what can I tell you about the Patriots? I mean,
That'll be Drake May.
Yep. They're 1-6 though, aren't they? I've lost track.
I believe they are.
Yeah. So there's some opportunity to win some games here, but as I say, I think Tua's going to hit the ground running. I just do. I think this has motivated him even more. So, do you want to predict what's going to happen in this Cardinals game?
I'll make a couple predictions in this game. One, as you mentioned, I agree with you that Tua is going to hit the ground running. I actually think he's going to throw over 300 passing yards.
I think game 1.
Yep. I think he's going to have over 300 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, which I think is going to put the Dolphins to win this game 31-20.
Okay. Can you believe the Dolphins have only scored 70 total points this season over 6 games? They scored 70 against Denver in one game last year. I'm going to see some points being put up in this game.
Yes.
Oh, it's going to be so beautiful when Tua hits Tyreek Hill for maybe a 45-yard. It's going to be fantastic. I think we're going to see the Waddle. I think we're going to see the Penguin in the end zone. This is me, of course, dreaming. We've never picked against the Dolphins this year,
and I don't think I can.
That's so silly in retrospect. But this is the week. I like your score. I think it's going to be 34-18 or something like that.
Wow.
I think Arizona is going to be lagging a little bit.
Wow.
And I think we'll see a good defensive performance from the Dolphins because they have not been bad this year.
Yeah.
People are, I hear people hating on Jaylen Ramsey. I don't get it. He hasn't been too bad. So let's bring it home. Let's get a win. Let's get this season back on track. And it'll make Best Florida Sports Podcast even bester. Is there another word for bester?
Greater.
If only there were a word.
Greater.
I'm just being silly.
Right.
Better would be the word.
Better.
Right? Better.
You could.
Literally. All right.
Well, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to episode 7 of the Best Florida Sports Podcast. Sam Sullivan alongside John Evenson. We're hoping for a big win this weekend.
It's happening.
We hope you guys enjoy it.
Best Florida Sports Podcast drops every Thursday morning. Listen on your favorite platform or watch on YouTube.